Welcome to the Insights Nexus, unbiased top news, global news updates without spin. Before we begin, we want to clarify that all news updates are sourced from reputable publications. This content is generated using AI, and we assume no legal responsibility for the accuracy or developments of the news presented. Viewers are encouraged to verify details from original sources. We've gathered the most relevant updates from the last 24 hours across multiple global news channels. Let's begin with Bloomberg. Trump's tariff plan faces Supreme Court challenge. Former U.S. President Donald Trump's proposed tariff hikes on steel and aluminum imports are being challenged in the Supreme Court, with industry leaders warning of economic repercussions. OPEC Plus announces oil production surge. The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC Plus, has agreed to increase oil production, aiming to stabilize global energy markets amid fluctuating demand. British man charged in U.S. for spying for China. A British national has been indicted in the U.S. for allegedly passing sensitive information to Chinese intelligence agencies.
Reuters News. Hamas seeks changes in U.S. ceasefire proposal. Hamas has responded to the U.S.-backed ceasefire plan, but demands modifications before agreeing to release hostages. Ukraine destroys over 40 Russian military aircraft in drone attack. Ukrainian officials confirmed that drone strikes targeted Russian air bases, marking one of the most significant attacks in recent months. EU criticizes U.S. plan to double steel tariffs. The European Union has expressed strong opposition to Trump's tariff increase, warning of potential countermeasures. NBC News. Trump withdraws NASA nominee. Citing review of prior associations, the White House announced that Trump has pulled his pick for NASA administrator due to concerns over past affiliations. Opposition to Gaza war grows among Israeli soldiers. Reports indicate that increasing numbers of Israeli soldiers are expressing dissent over the ongoing military operations in Gaza. U.S. envoy rejects Hamas ceasefire proposal as unacceptable. The U.S. envoy overseeing Middle East negotiations has dismissed Hamas's response to the ceasefire proposal.
Al Jazeera News. Israeli attacks kill dozens in Gaza. Israeli forces launched airstrikes near a U.S.-backed aid center, resulting in multiple casualties. UN blasts U.S.-backed Gaza aid system. The United Nations has criticized the chaotic distribution of humanitarian aid in Gaza, calling it a distraction from ongoing atrocities. French President Macron calls for Palestinian statehood. Macron has reiterated his support for Palestinian statehood, drawing criticism from Israeli officials. The Guardian. At least 7 dead after Russian bridge collapse. A railway bridge in Russia collapsed, causing a train derailment and multiple fatalities. Silent acts of resistance under Russian occupation in Ukraine. Ukrainian civilians continue to defy Russian occupation through covert resistance efforts. U.S. sends nuclear deal proposal to Iran. The Biden administration has submitted a new nuclear agreement proposal to Iran, aiming to curb uranium enrichment.
France 24 News. PSG wins first Champions League title. Paris Saint-Germain secured their maiden Champions League victory, defeating Inter Milan in a historic final. Iran's secret nuclear program exposed. The International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, has revealed that Iran has amassed near-weapons-grade uranium. Flash floods in Nigeria kill over 150 people. Severe flooding in central Nigeria has led to widespread devastation and loss of life. NDTV News. Miss Thailand crowned Miss World 2025. Opal Sachata Chwangsri won the prestigious Miss World title in Hyderabad, India. Trump administration to favor patriotic Americans for jobs. A new hiring policy prioritizes individuals who align with Trump's political agenda. Iran increases production of near-weapons-grade uranium. The UN nuclear watchdog has confirmed Iran's expanded uranium enrichment efforts.
South China Morning Post News. Greta Thunberg joins aid ships sailing to Gaza. The climate activist is participating in a humanitarian mission aimed at breaking Israel's blockade. U.S. envoy says France should carve Palestinian state out of Riviera. A controversial statement from a U.S. official has sparked diplomatic tensions. Thousands evacuated in Canada as wildfires spread. Massive wildfires in Manitoba and Saskatchewan have forced thousands to flee their homes. BBC Russia News. Russia stands by 3-day ceasefire plan despite Ukrainian drone attack. The The Kremlin insists on observing a truce despite Ukraine's skepticism. Russian advance in Ukraine's northeast may be an attempt to create a buffer zone. Moscow's forces continue pushing forward, raising concerns about territorial expansion. Germany promises to help Ukraine produce long-range missiles. The announcement signals deeper military cooperation between Berlin and Kiev.
AllAfrica news. UN expert urges end to attacks on Sudan's civilian infrastructure. The UN has condemned recent drone strikes and escalating violence in Sudan. South Africa's HIV crisis worsens among older population. The proportion of people over 50 living with HIV has doubled in the past decade. 22 men found dead in Mali after military arrests. Reports suggest soldiers carried out summary executions of detainees. Next will be small overview analysis of important news.
Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Hi there. Yeah, this is where we take your stack of sources, all the articles and headlines you've gathered.
And we just quickly pull out the key insights. It's a custom rundown just for you.
Exactly. And today, wow, you've got a real mix of global updates here. We're seeing Bloomberg, Reuters, Al Jazeera.
The Guardian, France 24, others too.
Right. So our job is just to sift through it quickly.
Pull out the main facts, help you get informed without, getting lost in the weeds.
We'll hit on geopolitics, economics, some humanitarian stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever jumps out from your material.
Okay, let's get into it. Let's maybe start with the U.S. economic side. Your Bloomberg source mentions tariffs.
Ah, yes. Former President Trump's proposed hikes on steel and aluminum.
And it's already facing a Supreme Court challenge, it says.
Yeah, and what's interesting is the industry reaction mentioned right there. Warnings about, potential negative impacts.
It's not just domestic pushback either, is it?
No, not at all. Reuters points out the EU is strongly against this plan.
And even warning about countermeasures. So definite international ripples there.
Okay, pivoting a bit. The Middle East. Your sources paint a complicated picture.
Reuters says Hamas has responded to that U.S.-backed ceasefire proposal.
Yes, but indicating they want specific changes before they'll agree. It's not a straight yes.
NBC News adds that the U.S. envoy called those changes. What was it?
Unacceptable. That's the word reportedly used, so sounds like a pretty big gap remains there.
That same NBC report also mentioned something quite striking, growing opposition to the war within Israel among soldiers.
Yeah, that's what it suggests. Interesting dynamic.
And your Al Jazeera sources add more layers. Reports of Israeli attacks near a U.S.-backed aid center.
Right, reportedly causing casualties.
And Al Jazeera also has the UN perspective on aid distribution in Gaza.
They're criticizing it as chaotic, calling it almost a distraction from what the UN terms atrocities.
Then there's the diplomatic angle. France 24 notes President Macron calling for Palestinian statehood.
Right. And the South China Morning Post adds a couple of different kinds of notes.
Oh, yeah?
One is Greta Thunberg, reportedly joining an aid ship bound for Gaza. Activism on one hand.
And the other.
And then separately, this controversial comment attributed to a U.S. official, sort of joking about France carving a state out of the Riviera.
Oof.
Yeah, it just shows the wide range of things happening around this activism, diplomacy, and sometimes strained language.
Got it. Okay, let's shift again. Russia, Ukraine, based on your reports. Reuters mentions a big Ukrainian drone attack.
A significant one, yeah. Claims over 40 Russian military aircraft destroyed at air bases.
Wow, okay, that sounds major.
And then The Guardian reports something else, a railway bridge collapsing inside Russia.
Causing a derailment, fatalities?
Yeah. The sources don't explicitly link the two events, obviously, but both point to disruptions within Russia.
The Guardian also touches on the civilian side, mentioning ongoing quiet resistance.
Silent acts, yeah. Among Ukrainians under occupation.
What about the Russian view?
Yep.
BBC Russia.
Well, they report Russia saying it intends to observe a 3-day ceasefire. Interestingly, despite that big drone attack we just mentioned. And BBC Russia also includes some analysis, suggesting Russia's push in the northeast might be about creating a buffer zone.
And another piece from BBC Russia Germany promising to help Ukraine produce long-range missiles.
Yeah, that signals a potential step up in, the kind of support being offered.
Okay. And your sources also flagged Iran's nuclear program.
Right. France 24 and NDTV both citing the IAEA,
the UN watchdog,
saying Iran is amassing uranium enriched close to weapons-grade levels and boosting production.
But The Guardian adds the Biden administration has apparently put forward a new nuclear deal proposal.
Seems so. likely trying to address that enrichment situation.
Okay, and finally, just a quick scan of some other major events from your sources. Humanitarian, social.
Yeah, France 24 reported on those terrible flash floods in Nigeria, over 150 deaths mentioned.
Really tragic. And AllAfrica.
Pointing to South Africa, where the HIV crisis is apparently worsening among the older population. That's a concerning trend.
Also from AllAfrica, that report about 22 men found dead in Mali after military arrests.
Grim news there, too. And the South China Morning Post noted wildfires in Canada, leading to thousands being evacuated.
So, quite a range. When you sort of pull back and look at all this, what does it all suggest?
Well, I mean, you really see how interconnected things are, don't you?
Yeah, like the U.S. tariff idea immediately sparking an EU reaction.
Exactly. And how conflicts like the one in the Middle East aren't just military. There's diplomacy, aid, activism, internal dissent. It's all woven together.
And these big geopolitical things are happening right alongside major humanitarian crises like the floods or environmental ones like the wildfires.
Right. They all exist in the same global space and can, influence each other in unexpected ways. It reminds you that these aren't isolated incidents.
Absolutely. So our aim here was just to distill those key facts and reports from the diverse sources you provided.
Give you that quick, kind of unvarnished overview.
We hope this rapid deep dive into your material is helpful, a useful shortcut.
Yeah, thanks for bringing us these sources to work with.
So maybe a final thought for you to consider. Looking at this whole tapestry, trade friction, conflicts, disasters, health issues, how do you think one specific detail, maybe like that diplomat's offhand comment, or even a single event like that bridge collapse, how does it fit into, or maybe even subtly influence, that bigger global picture?
Something to mull over as you process all these updates.